The day the magnate stopped breathing, the ventilator beeped in slow, chilling rhythm. A machine was keeping him alive, but something much darker was trying to shut him down for good. In a luxury hospital where the room smelled like money and power, the old magnate lay motionless, intubated, alone and betrayed. Everyone thought he was in a coma. Everyone thought he had no idea what was going on. But he heard everything, every whisper, every footstep, every plan to erase him from his own empire. What no one expected was that evil had a name tag and a white coat. The doctors weren't there to heal, they were there to finish the job. Every dose of medication wasn't a treatment, it was a countdown. Day after day, the mysterious deterioration of the billionaire baffled the public, but not the people behind it. They knew, they celebrated. In a private room, far from the media, the tycoon was becoming a silent victim of a medical masquerade. His body weakened, but his mind refused to die. And just when it looked like the vultures would win, she appeared. Wearing rubber gloves and pushing a squeaky mop bucket, no one noticed the janitor. She had no family name, no inheritance, no agenda, just instinct. And when instinct screamed, she listened. That day, she stayed longer than usual, cleaning near the room, pretending not to see, but watching everything. And what she saw would change not only the fate of the magnate, but her own life too. As one of the fake doctors injected something suspicious into the IV line, her heart raced, her gut twisted. That wasn't a nurse's move. That was an assassin's silence. The janitor, unnoticed by all, became the only hope of a man the world believed was already dead. And the worst part? This was just the beginning, because what was really happening inside that room would soon expose a hidden will, a testament so dangerous, so secret, that people were ready to kill for it. And the only person who could protect it wasn't a bodyguard, wasn't a lawyer, but the woman with a mop and a phone camera. She pressed record. The janitor who knew too much. No one noticed her. No one ever did. While socialites cried crocodile tears on TV and heirs pretended to be heartbroken in Gucci sunglasses, she swept the corridors of the private hospital, the kind of place where the floors shine like gold and the patients are worth more dead than alive. But what no one knew was that this janitor had eyes sharper than a camera lens. She saw things, heard things, and most of all, she remembered everything. On that Thursday morning, while cleaning the corridor, she paused near the magnate's room. The blinds were half open. She wasn't supposed to look, but curiosity doesn't follow rules. That's when she saw the syringe. A doctor, or at least someone wearing a doctor's coat, injected something into the magnate's feeding tube. But it wasn't on the chart. It wasn't part of the routine. And the worst part, the man didn't wash his hands, didn't speak, didn't even check the vitals. He just walked in, injected the substance, and walked out like a ghost. That was the moment the janitor froze. Her instincts screamed louder than her fear. She reached into her pocket, pulled out an old phone with a cracked screen, and began to record everything she could. From that moment on, she stopped being a cleaner and became a silent guardian. Every shift, she came early, stayed late, cleaned in silence, and investigated. She took photos of suspicious medications, collected discarded wrappers, memorized faces. The doctors were changing daily. Different faces, same tactics. None of them looked at the patient, only at the machines, like they were checking if the job was done. But the old man's will to live wouldn't let him go, and neither would she. She began hiding the evidence inside cleaning products, disguising files in her mop bucket, a whole operation happening under their noses, run by the most underestimated person in the building. And the greatest irony, she didn't even know the man was a billionaire. For her, he was just a man dying in silence. That was enough, until one day, he blinked, and in that single blink, everything changed. She whispered, "You're awake, aren't you?" and a tear rolled down his cheek. He heard everything. Now, it was time to talk. The safe wasn't just gold. It was a test. The Old Tycoon was back home, but no one celebrated. Not his lawyer, who had already started drafting obituaries with a pen dripping greed. Not his fake heirs, who had bets on who would get the mansion with the pool shaped like a dollar sign. Not even his ex-lovers, who had already picked out outfits for the funeral, black lace and crocodile tears. But the Tycoon didn't return to rest. He returned to finish what he started. Because hidden in the east wing of his estate, behind a mirror that only opens with a laugh, yes, a laugh, was a golden safe. A ridiculous, absurd, custom-built safe. One so bright it looked like a sun had been locked inside. But it wasn't filled with cash, or diamonds, or rare wines. It held the real will, the secret testament, one that rewrote everything. Every name that appeared in the public version, scratched out in red. Every fake heir who had already moved in, replaced with a line, "If you're reading this, you're out." Instead, the real will had just three things: a photo of the janitor, a handwritten note, "She saved my life, now she saves my legacy." A plan, a genius, twisted plan. One only a man who'd been betrayed, poisoned, and left for dead could come up with. The Tycoon didn't just want to punish, he wanted to expose. So he let them come closer, let them pretend again, let them kiss his cheek and toast to his miraculous recovery. Meanwhile, the janitor, now disguised as the new housekeeper, installed hidden microphones, swapped champagne for sparkling apple juice, and watched the house of cards rebuild itself. But she knew it would fall again, and this time it would fall on camera. The golden safe was no longer just a vault. It was the trap. The truth always knocks twice. They thought the Tycoon would never wake up. They thought the medication would finish what betrayal had started. They thought the will would stay hidden. They were wrong. The safe had triggered it all. The moment he opened it, a silent alarm activated. Not in the house, in himself. The need for justice, for answers, for one last masterstroke. Because the truth was simple. He knew. He knew about the morphine switch. He knew about the cameras being disabled. He knew about the whispers in the hospital room when they thought he was unconscious. And he knew who saved him. The janitor, the one no one even noticed, had been his angel in a mop bucket. She didn't just take photos. She documented shifts, tracked the fake names on the badges, listened to hallway confessions while cleaning accidentally near break rooms. And she watched them. She watched how they laughed too soon, how they spoke about the Tycoon's death as a done deal, how they started spending his money before the machines even flatlined. She saw it all, and she told him everything. And the moment she whispered the names of the traitors into his ear as he lay recovering, he didn't blink, he didn't scream, he just smiled and said, "Let's play." From that moment, the house transformed. Rooms were bugged, phones tapped, loyal staff tested, and every single person under the roof became a player in a game they didn't know was being recorded. He hosted dinners, but served information. He gave gifts, but watched reactions. He made promises, but wrote their lies in a black leather journal. Because justice wasn't going to be served in court, it would be served in legacy. His fortune, his story, his name would not be handed to leeches with expensive suits and poisoned hearts. And while everyone kept playing the game of pretending to care, the real players, the old magnate and his unlikely new ally, were already planning checkmate. He who laughs last is always the loudest. They thought he would never walk again. They thought the poison, the coma, the silence had been enough to erase the old magnate from existence. But power never fades. It recalculates. And in the silence of his convalescence, a legacy was reborn. With the janitor turned confidant by his side, Now officially his head housekeeper and secretly his most trusted eye, the magnate returned to the mansion in a wheelchair. But even that was part of the show, because the true final move was still hidden. The false doctors who had tried to erase him began receiving mysterious envelopes. Inside, photos, audio recordings, a whisper from the shadows. "I saw you." Panic spread. One disappeared, another tried to flee the country. A third attempted to frame an innocent nurse, only to find the nurse was already cooperating with the magnate's private investigator. And then it happened. In a press conference that no one saw coming, held in his golden garden, under the chandelier-lit gazebo, the magnate rolled up to the microphone. Reporters gasped, staff froze, enemies watched from behind tinted glass. He lifted a folder. "This," he said, "is the truth. My will, rewritten. My assets, redirected. My enemies, documented." He dropped names. He exposed documents. He signed away properties to the humble, the nurse, the janitor, the childhood friend who once fed him bread when he had nothing. And then he stood from the wheelchair. No cane, no assistance, just legacy. One step, then another, and silence turned into thunderous applause. Because in the end, the magnate didn't just survive. He rewrote the rules. He exposed the rot behind the luxury. He gave betrayal a name and justice a spotlight. And while his enemies scattered, the world leaned closer, because everyone loves a comeback. But no one forgets a revenge told with elegance, gold, and just enough madness. Now, if this story moved you, share it, like it. Let YouTube know we're here to bring more lightness, more twists, and a lot more unexpected victories in a world that forgot how to laugh. And if you want to know what happens next in the magnate's outrageous legacy, subscribe now, because this saga has just begun.